Hello and welcome back to the Jerusalem Post. I'm your host, Tamar Uriel-Berry, and I'm joined today by Leora Wine. Leora has her BA from Emory University in Middle Eastern Studies and International Relations and is a student in Tel Aviv University's master's program in Emergency and Disaster Management. She's worked for over a decade at the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, JDC for short, currently operating as Director of Disaster Response, responding to humanitarian disasters worldwide and developing strategic partnerships while doing so. Leora, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Leora, the JDC is seemingly, simply put, everywhere at once, from assisting victims of the Ukraine crisis to providing support to those in need due to the pandemic, right? Tell me, where do you fit into this sort of action-packed landscape in your role?
Sure. So JDC is definitely a large organization that does a lot. I mean, really, we're the 911 of the Jewish world. I would say that where I fit in, where my department that I work for fits in, is this small but mighty department that really puts Jewish values into action, right? So based on Jewish values, our end users, our beneficiaries are non-Jews. And that goes into responding to disasters, which is what I'm a part of, and also looking at tackling some other large issues as well, issues that are related to health and to agriculture and women's economic empowerment. So it's kind of a small and sometimes unknown, but very mighty department.
So I'm curious, if most of the audience that you're working with isn't part of the Jewish community, what is so foundational in applying nevertheless Jewish values rather than just, moral ideology?
Right. So I would say two things. First of all, we're a longstanding organization, right? We've been around for 108 years. So by supporting the work of the joint, then you know that your money is going to an organization that's going to vet partners and going to do the work, and it's going to go to really get to the end users that you want. Moreover, I would say that, based on Tikkun Olam, on repairing the world, and really wanting to give a Jewish response, by giving through the joint, then the stakeholders can feel that their money is going with the right kind of feelings through it. And I'll give you one other piece, that oftentimes when we respond to disasters, if there's a Jewish community present and they're not affected and they're interested in responding, then we work with them. So examples in the Philippines and in Turkey, really, they were at the front and we were at the back, just helping them build community relations that way.
So it's kind of working with the people that are already there to help them create foundations.
Definitely.
So your research and work to a great extent touches on the impact of crises specifically on women, in particular in the professional sphere. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so research and our experience has shown us that when we invest in women, that money, that extra amount of their livelihood will come back in the form of healthcare for their family, in the form of education for their children, and go back into their communities. So by working with them, you're really able to impact that, so many more. And I'll give you an example. India, a country that I've worked in for many years. There's a great organization called the Self-Employed Women's Association. It's basically a federation of cooperatives. So these are, daily wage workers, women that are part of the informal workforce, right? So come COVID-19, many of their livelihoods went out like that, right? They were ones that were working street stalls and cleaning the streets and childcare, and they had nothing. And so together with them, we built a program that empowered women leaders. So about 24 women leaders, and we equipped them with medical supplies and with oxygen tanks and with education material. And about COVID-19, and when they went into their communities, they were seen as those leaders.
Leaders in the sense of pushing through during the pandemic, or in terms of providing employment? What was that?
I would say it's both. First of all, they're positive role models, right? So their kids and their husbands and other people saw them as their go-to person, that they were the ones, and it showed them that they could do more than what they were even doing before. These women are so resilient. When the pandemic hit, they actually created, not only did they sew their own masks, because a lot of people did, but they formulated their own hand sanitizer. They got patented. And that was the hand sanitizer that we gave out to other people in the society. So really very resourceful.
Yeah. So you called these women resilient. That's something kind of that I'm seeing both in this sphere, but also in the material that, is on even on the public website of Tel Aviv University's master's program in disaster management. Can you explain to me what you mean by this concept of resilience? What is that and how is it so central to disaster management as a field?
Resilience is it's a big buzzword, right? People use it all the time, and it can mean a lot of things. I would say that the way in which I've learned about it in my studies, and also it kind of comes out with these women as well. First of all, it's about planning and preparation, right? So it's about understanding global warming. We know that heat waves, that floods are just becoming more frequent and more severe. We're seeing more of these happening all the time. So we know that it's coming. How are people planning and preparing for it? On a level of, warning systems, disaster plans, family plans, how are people being able to prepare for it? In the same way, these women, when they're faced with a challenge, how are they finding a creative solution and together with us finding a solution in order to turn their situation into something that they can then use? I would say that, in terms of disasters, when you think about a sudden onset disaster like an earthquake, if you were in an earthquake, who are the first responders? Who are actually the first responders? They're the bystanders, those people that are actually there. And so when we take out the feeling of helplessness and we replace it with action, then that's resilient. That's exactly what these women were doing.
Mm-hmm. So these are tools, in essence, tools to prepare for any kind of disaster.
You could call it tools, you can call it a state of mind, it's really a way of thinking, I would say, a way of acting. We know that resilient communities are made up of resilient people that have been through disaster, that are in disaster prone areas, that know that they're coming again. I mean, during COVID-19, there were flash floods, there were floods that were going on and they lost power. But because they're used to it and also able to find creative solutions, they really, I would say, epitomize resiliency.
Mm-hmm. Do communities that aren't impacted as often by crises and, are suddenly hit by something, kind of thrown out of left field, are those communities less resilient in your experience?
It depends. I would say, communities that prepare, that, even let's take going out of the kind of lower middle income countries, going to high income countries, even in North America, when you know that the hurricane season is coming, and you prepare your house and you have a plan in place and and the community prepares and they send out flyers and they do drills, then even if you may not get hit as often by a hurricane, you know that you are prepared, and prepared makes you feel calm and safe, and and your kids are in school and they know what to do. Then it's kind of just kind of a way of life, I would say.
Right, and that calm is so crucial for dealing with these situations.
Right. I mean, knowledge is power, right? When you have the knowledge and you know what to do, then you're able to say, okay, if it comes, then I can handle it. You see on the other side, people that they're in countries that it's not as pronounced, and they may not really get hit as often or at all, then it can be really shocking and it can be hard.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been in the field for a few years and have done the master's only the past few. As someone more seasoned, do you see your studies at Tel Aviv University as having nevertheless contributed to your work and to your field?
Definitely. I mean, I think the great part about working and studying is that I'm able to bring the theoretical and apply it to the practical. Right? And the fact that the degree is a Master of Disaster Management this year, it really touches upon so many different different sectors, right? So it's legal and ethics, and it's cybersecurity, and it's risk communication, and it's psychology, and there's so many pieces that kind of come together that I'm able to then apply it in the work that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And these are skills that you were able to fully form in the master's program, or it's kind of things that you had already put into practice and the master's program at Tel Aviv University kind of filled in the blanks? Like, how is your mentality about it?
I guess you could say it's the chicken and the egg, right? It really depends. A lot of the stuff are things that, I'll give you an example. Last week, I took a risk communication course, and now I'm talking to you. So I used to do, I did public speaking before, but you can tell me if it's, if it's different now. But I would say
even now, you're calm, you're resilient.
A lot of, it's kind of like learning a foreign language where you're studying a language for a while, and then you go in class and you're learning a new word, and you go outside and you see it on the street. And so so I knew the word before, but now I can use it more confidently and really just use it in a better way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. Well, Leora, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. And good luck with your work and studies.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.